How you doing?
Hey, we're good. Dan, thank you very much for doing this. I expect some people to show up at the 10 o'clock hour here very soon. So,
Awesome.
where are you located, Dan? Are you in Kansas City? Are you back in Utah, or where are you currently at?
Yeah, I'm in Utah right now
Gotcha.
currently until further notice, till we figure out when we'll get started again.
Yeah, I was wondering and I saw something about a two-game preseason or something like that maybe being talked about. I mean, you would probably know more than me, but or maybe none. Who knows? Or maybe no
Yeah,
season. I don't know.
as of right now, it's no news. So
It's up in the air. Yeah, I just wonder, if they proceed with the season, maybe they do it, without fans, which would be very bizarre. And then you would wonder why would they want to run those big stadiums with no fans in there? I mean, would you be playing at alternate locations outside where the weather's warm, or I mean, it's just kind of an interesting scenario. I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of interesting. Well, I'll tell you what I got to do is I got to mute everybody so we don't get a lot of background sort of chatter, and then I'll unmute you, and then we'll get going here. So mute all. There we go. Can you say something, Dan? Make sure you're unmuted.
yeah, you can hear me okay?
We can hear you. Okay. Okay, Dan. Well, welcome. Thank you very much. For those that aren't familiar with Dan, Dan is a current Super Bowl champion, NFL athlete playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. You are. Is it strong? Are you still strong safety? Is that your position?
I do a little bit of everything, and that's kind of been my value over the years. So I play both safety positions. I play a linebacker position. I play special teams. I'm a jack of all trades, you could say.
Awesome. Well, let me just, if you don't mind, can you give us a little bit of background? I know I read a little bit of background. I know you grew up from a sports related family. You've been doing it your whole life. I guess you grew up in Utah, and brothers, dad. I think we're all athletes. So can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So I've got four older brothers and an older sister, and sports was our life growing up pretty much. We played it all, did everything. And football was kind of what my family was best at. And all of my brothers played college football at the collegiate level. And my brother, that's just 2 years older than me, who I'm really close with, was actually drafted into the NFL the year prior. So 2013, he was drafted into the NFL. And so just growing up being the youngest, I was kind of probably picked on by the older brothers, but, kind of had to fight for my own. And that really helped me in athletics, competing with my brothers, translated to competing on the field and things like that. And I just kind of followed in their footsteps as they led the way, with sports and different things like that. And so, yeah, grew up in California, Southern California, went to Colton High School, played football, basketball, and baseball there, and then received a scholarship to come play football at BYU here in Utah, in Provo, Utah, and came up here and played a year, then left on Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints mission, which is 2 years to Costa Rica, where I learned Spanish and taught the people there for 2 years. I came back and I played 3 years at BYU at the safety position. And then, like I said, my brother, who was just 2 years older than me, was entering the draft in the 2013 draft. And at that point, I wasn't necessarily, didn't have my sights on thinking I was going to be an NFL prospect until he got drafted in the 7th round. And I said, well, hey, I've been around this guy my whole life, and if he can do it, I can do it too. So the following year, I entered the draft and was undrafted, did not get drafted, and actually had the opportunity to choose which team I wanted to go to, which was fortunate because I landed with a really good team with the Kansas City Chiefs and Coach Andy Reid. And that was going on 7 years ago. I've been there my whole career. It's been amazing. Made the playoffs every year except one. Started a lot and got to play a lot. We won the Super Bowl last year, and it's just been an amazing journey so far.
Yeah, this is, I guess, is this your seventh season, going into your seventh season?
Going into year 7. Yep.
So you're, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think isn't the average NFL career usually about 3 years for most people? So you've kind of exceeded that sort of threshold there. So
Yeah.
what, I mean, have you had any injuries you've had to deal with? Have you been, I mean, my understanding is pretty much everybody has at least some kind of injury they're dealing with.
Yeah. So the phrase that they use in the NFL is the injury rate is 100%. Everybody that plays in the NFL gets injured. And fortunately, I haven't had any major injuries other than 2 years ago, I broke my leg. I had a tibia plateau fracture. Yeah, it was a contact injury. So tibia plateau fracture, it's an injury that they see in car accidents a lot, they say. And so that was the beginning of training camp. I was out till week 9 or 10 in the season and was actually able to return and finish that season. We went to the AFC Championship game and lost to the New England Patriots, if anybody remembers that. But I was able to recover from the injury. There's a plate in there. They had to repair some ligaments. And actually, I'm still in the process of kind of strengthening up that knee from the injury. But, I'd say I'm healthy and, I fit to play.
Yeah, when you said you haven't had any major injuries and then you followed up with tibial plateau fracture as an orthopedic surgeon, I'm like, wait a minute, that's pretty significant. Yeah, I was going to ask you if they put a plate and screws, probably on the outside, I imagine.
Yeah.
There's a way to grade those different plateau fractures. But so you've been in the league for, not going on your seventh season. How much, and we'll get into this, but how much emphasis is placed upon diet by the team itself? I mean, because we see people, just do whatever they want, and I guess, I mean, obviously they can't dictate what you eat, but is there any kind of guidance with that?
Yeah, so there are just a few things. I wouldn't say that it's heavily looked at, and we have a dietitian. We have a on staff dietitian that if you need help, she's available. But nobody forces you to be on a strict diet of any kind, and it's very much on your own. You do things on your own, whatever works best. But at the end of the day, the only thing that they give you is a 5 pound window that you're supposed to stay in, right? And so, they don't want to see you during the season put on 10 pounds or 15 pounds of unhealthy weight, right? Or vice versa. They don't want to see you lose a bunch of weight during the season, muscle mass and things like that. So you got a 5 pound window, but other than that, you're pretty much on your own.
Well, I mean, even with muscle mass, I mean, even if you were like playing your position, I mean, even if you were, say, 30 pounds heavier and it was all muscle, would that at point change your position? I mean, would you have to be more of a linebacker than a defensive back type or farther in the backfield?
Yeah, there is kind of probably a weight range that, like a safety position should be within, this certain range. But I think if they base it off individual. If you're moving well and you're strong and things like that, and you play best at a certain weight, then they'll kind of give you that 5 pound range. And I've always stayed very consistent between like 205 and 210. That's kind of my range over the last 7 years. And I haven't changed a whole lot during the season.
So having just, come off winning the Super Bowl, I mean, that's kind of the pinnacle of an NFL athlete's career. I mean, as far as team sport goes, obviously there's individual things, that you can do. So is it harder to sort of, now that you've achieved it, do you feel like, what else can we achieve? I mean, do you find that it's harder to stay motivated with that? Or is it like, let's do it again? And I know obviously this is a very, very strange season because are you guys allowed to practice as a team? Has that occurred yet? Is it too early in the season? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so actually this week we would have, under a traditional offseason, just finished our offseason training. They're called OTAs. And we pretty much skipped all of those, other than we did like Zoom meetings on the computer and things like that. But no get-togethers, no practice, no workouts of any kind. I've actually just been training in my basement. I've got a gym set up, which I actually really enjoy. I've got all the equipment that I need, and I've been doing this long enough that I know the exercises and the weights and things that I need to be doing. but yeah. So, and again, we're waiting to see what kind of agreement that there'll be when we can get back together and practice. And again, we're kind of just on standby, like I'm sure a lot of people are.
Yeah, I think half the country's on standby, which is it's very frustrating, and I think you see some of that frustration occurring. But let me ask you. So I want to get to the thing that people are excited about hearing this. So you had mentioned that you had pursued you started on a carnivorous diet. I guess you said was it right after the Super Bowl? Can you tell us a little bit about what prompted you to try something? So what other people would say is crazy. I don't, because I've been doing this almost going up on 4 years now, so I understand it. But what sort of led you to do that? I mean, was there some sort of specific reason that you took it up? I've seen a lot of other high-level athletes in different sports, around the world do it. But, for someone in, I guess the big three or the big four, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball or NHL, we haven't heard too many people do that yet. But so you're kind of one of the very first ones to do that. So what prompted you to do that?
Yeah, so I'm the type of person that's always trying to improve. And so I like to do my own research. I like to understand things and try them out for myself. And that goes for just training as well as diet. And I've really been focused on my diet a lot recently. And I've tried a lot of different things, right? Just the keto, the low carb keto, higher fats. I've tried the higher carbohydrate as an athlete. And I've done everything, right? I've had programs written up for me, all these different things. So I'm always trying to improve and find something that works best for me. And actually during the season, I got into the fasting, right? Started educating myself a lot on the fasting, and that led me to carnivore. And I think you were probably one of the first people that I had watched on YouTube that kind of had explained this and introduced this to me. And so after that, I was really interested. And so I'd say about halfway through the season last year to the very end of the season, I was watching videos, reading up on it. I bought the Carnivore Code. I read that. And so I was actually really excited and telling people about this during the season, that I was going to do this as soon as the season was over, because I wasn't ready to make a drastic change mid-season. And I didn't think it was necessary, but I was telling everybody day one, after the Super Bowl, I'm starting the carnivore diet. And that's what I did. The day after we won the Super Bowl, I started, and I did 30 days. I did the 30-day challenge, and I just wanted to see, right? And the results that I had were unbelievable. I remember sitting down, I said, I need to write all of this down so I remember all the changes that happened in my body, all the benefits that I had experienced in just 30 days. And then my wife and I actually, right after that 30 days, we go to Mexico, to Cabo, and we enjoyed, 5 or 6 days there. And I said, I'm just going to enjoy myself on vacation. And we'll just see how this goes. And again, I remember writing down all of the negatives that I experienced while I was there. And I didn't eat horrible. I just ate normal things, chips and salsa and just the food at the nice restaurants that we had there. And I couldn't believe the drastic change that I had experienced. And I said, whoa, I need to get back on carnivore. I don't want to live like this and have, these side effects, and to think how many other people that are living like this and just think that this is normal, that this is just the way your body should feel. And I said, I've experienced a way better feeling being on this carnivore diet, and I'm going to go back to it. And since then, I've even tried to experiment adding some carbohydrates here and there with the training, and honestly haven't had great results. And so, probably the last, 2 months or so, I'm, been completely carnivore, and I'm loving it. And I don't really, at this point, don't see a need to try and add carbohydrates in. As far as the training that I'm doing hasn't required me to do so. Everything I've been doing feels great. I can't say enough good things about it. And, I bet my family gets really tired of me telling them, because it's nonstop. Guys, this is amazing. All these different things. And so I'm kind of working on them, but that's been my journey so far.
As presumably as a fine-tuned athlete, I mean, I mean, we all think, NFL guys are going to be like tip-top shape. Everything's going to be, for them to be able to perform at that level. And it's interesting to say that, you find that you can improve upon that. Can you touch a little bit on how things, and I know a lot of it is just mental toughness. I mean, to succeed where you are, you've got to be strong mentally. You got to be able to push your body, even when it hurts, even when it doesn't feel good. You got to be able to do that. And I know from personal experience, being an athlete my whole life, to succeed, you've got to deal with the negatives and just kind of push through it. But what kind of things were you noticing that were improved? That'd be interesting to hear.
Yeah. It's great that I'm glad I wrote that down, because I'll always have that stark kind of contrast of, the benefits that I had versus, the downsides of the carnivore versus going off it for a little bit. But number one, I remember, was sleep. And as an athlete, as anybody that's training rigorously, sleep is like number one for recovery. It is huge. And so I just remember having the best sleep probably that I've ever had. And so that was one of the first things that stood out. The other thing too is that, so I've got 3 little kids, and they demand your attention all day long. They don't care if you've worked out in the morning. They don't care if you didn't sleep well last night, right? They require your attention. And I just recognized how much energy that I had throughout the day, and being able to keep up with them. So, the sleep, the energy, the inflammation, right? So the soreness, things like that typically would, kind of ache and bother you, had kind of gone away. Another thing too is, bowel movements and things like that. I was so low maintenance as far as that's concerned, that it was nice for me. It was nice for my wife. I'm not farting as much, and she recognized that. It rarely happens. I go to the bathroom probably once a day versus, on these other diets, when you're an athlete, some of these things that they write up, you're eating every 2 to 2.5 hours. I mean, you're talking 6, 8, 10 meals a day, right? You have meals and snacks in between, and protein shakes and all these different things. It's very high maintenance. Not only is it time consuming to make and prepare all that food, but you're using the bathroom all the time, right? And all these proteins, whey protein shakes that you're drinking and things like that give you gas. And so that was another benefit, is I realized how low maintenance it is. I can eat and be satisfied, and I'm good for hours. And yeah, I'm trying to think some of the other ones, I've had allergies for the last, I can't tell you how long, and I've been on a nasal spray consistently. And I remember if I had gone off it, that I would start getting some issues and things like that. Haven't had to use my allergy spray once since starting carnivore. I never get any type of sinus congestion. I breathe incredibly well through my nose, which is great for not only training, but sleeping and all these different things. So those are some of the benefits that I noticed.
How are you having any difficulty maintaining body weight? I mean, some people, when they go on a carnivore, particularly some athletes, they say it's hard for them to maintain body weight. Is that an issue for you? And if so, how are you dealing with that?
So when I first started, I didn't want to weigh myself. During the 30 days, I said, I don't want my weight to be a factor in this decision that I made to commit to the 30 days. And so I didn't weigh myself. And what I found is I got really lean, which it's not a bad thing, especially after the season. To lean up was a great idea. And it kind of went along with the training I was doing. And then I did weigh myself. I had lost some weight, but I didn't have a hard time putting that weight back on. I'm definitely satisfied eating the carnivore diet, but I have the ability to eat a lot of food. And when I was training at BYU at the college, they have a dietitian there. He's amazing. And he would cook ribeye steaks for the whole team. And so we were training there as some professional athletes. There's a group of us. And so they would give us a ribeye steak after training. And it was just perfect timing that I was on the carnivore diet. And so I'd come home with this, as big as you can imagine, ribeye steak, and every day after training, that was what I ate. And so that helped a lot, having that available. And no, I haven't had issues, and I'm working through right now understanding how I can use it when I need to. I want to, you know, put on some weight. I want to lean up, and kind of as I mix that in between weeks, right? So this week I'm on a lean up, and so I do some more fasting than I normally do. I have leaner cuts of meat, and I'm learning. I'm not an expert by any means, but I'm understanding how my body responds, and it's so easy. The variables are so easy, right? Before, when you've got all these different variables, carbohydrates and what kind of carbohydrates and what, different things, and the carnivore is so simple to manipulate your variables that I found it's very easy to eat. It's not complicated, and I'm just kind of fine tuning what's kind of how it works for me, I guess.
What's a just a typical amount? You said you can eat a lot. I mean, and I've had days where I've eaten 6 pounds, 7 pounds occasionally. I'm not doing that currently, but I can certainly put it away too. But what kind of volume are we talking about?
Yeah, I don't know as I've measured anything, but I'm to the probably 5 or 6 pound I could eat easily in a day. The other day I had 24 eggs, 2 dozen eggs, no problem. I can, yeah, the Flying Dutchman is always a fun challenge. I think I'm probably up to 6 or 7 Flying Dutchmen in just one sitting at a time. And Yeah, no, I don't have a problem putting away food, and I enjoy that too, because I can eat a lot of my nutrition in 1 or 2 meals that can satisfy me through the whole day, and so I can then introduce a lot of fasting. Work out in the morning, and then I don't eat till mid afternoon, and then I have another meal maybe a couple hours later, 6, 7 o'clock at night, and then I'm done. So that's a benefit as well.
Let me ask you about training intensity, because this is the thing that people, the naysayers, are going to say, because obviously the season hasn't started yet, so we don't know what the performances are going to be like under those conditions. But I assume you've been doing this for, playing football and training for that for decade, more than a decade, obviously. I'm sure 20 years or something. And how does your training and the level of intensity that you're able to hit compared to seasons past on this dietary regimen?
Yeah, so again, we haven't been doing our specific football training together as a team, like practice styles and even a game type scenario. But I have done the same style of training where it's running, it's conditioning, it's speed work, it's explosive movements, power cleans, snatches, heavy squats, all those different things. And what I noticed is a more consistent energy throughout the entire workout. And so, it was a workout typically looks like this. We would show up. This is when I was training at the college, BYU. We would show up and we'd warm up and do some type of running, agility / cardio, all within an hour time, right? So we dedicated about an hour of running, which is high intensity a lot of the times, right? We're doing sprint work and agility drills where you're at full capacity, and then straight into the weight room for an hour to an hour and a half workout. So that's 2.5 hours of pretty consistent, high intensity training. And I didn't see any drop off at all in performance or strength. If anything, it was a more consistent. My cardio seemed like it responded better than previously, and so that was a huge plus for me. But if this was something that I knew affected my training, I wouldn't be so prideful to say, oh, I'm gonna do this just because, right? The training is number one, and if that's being affected, then whatever else needs to go to a side. So because I haven't noticed any anything affecting that, then I'm sticking with it, and I'm actually looking forward to going into the season and seeing how much better I can perform.
Yeah, somebody, and I forget who it was, but it was somebody that was also involved with BYU, said there was at least a couple guys that were dabbling in that. Since you've been doing this, are you aware of any other football guys or NFL guys that are thinking about playing with this?
Yeah, and like I said, I've seen so many benefits that I tell everybody about it. And so, we had a group of guys that were training down there, down at BYU, professional athletes, just like me. And they were asking questions about it. And I told them, guys, these benefits are amazing. They're unreal. And so, yes, there was guys asking me questions and starting to do the diet. And I would kind of say, hey, well, this is kind of what I have done, and this helped me, and different and kind of coaching them through just a little bit. I haven't been around them recently, but I would say 3 or 4 guys, without mentioning their names. I don't know if they care or not, but I knew had tried it and were experimenting with it. Whether they're still doing it right now, I'm not sure. But that was awesome to see as well.
Yeah, I think the fella that contacted me, and I can't remember the name because I think he was a Pacific Islander fella, and their names were like, they just have difficult names for
Yeah.
folks to pronounce. But and that kind of brings me to, when I was younger, when I was playing athlete, I played a fairly high level rugby. I played down in New Zealand with some of, I got to play against some of the All Blacks in their kind of premier league. And there's currently a couple high level international rugby players that are doing it as well. And, I mean, obviously it's a different sport, but, kind of similar physical requirements, big, strong, fast, high intensity, a lot of contact, and have had some good success with that. In fact, one of the New Zealand All Blacks was doing that, and he's one of the better guys they've had. So it's interesting to see how this sort of evolves over time, even if, people are, switching, because there is, I mean, without getting into sort of negativity, there has been a push for a plant-based movement within higher level sports, and we're seeing some athletes seem to do okay. Some athletes just don't really do well on that. Was that ever? And you said you had tried all kinds of different diets over the years. Can you compare this versus some of those other attempts?
You know what? I never did get too into the plant-based diets. I think I kind of, I don't know whether it was intuition or just some knowledge that I had. I kind of felt like that didn't want to go down that path. So I've always eaten meat, but in the NFL, especially, I can only speak for my team, but it is a big deal. The plant-based type of diet, and I think a lot of these guys, I'm not sure if they're just following the kind of this kind of mainstream things or not, or how much they're actually educating themselves and whether it works for them or not. But I know that it's a big thing as far as NFL teams and players and different things like that. And I've actually heard of some people that have had to, add some protein sources back into their diet after trying it and noticing, significant weight loss or strength loss and things like that, to be able to, because you've got, 290-pound guys, 300-pound guys, right? That's a lot of muscle mass and to maintain. And so I know that's difficult. That would be very challenging to do that. So yeah, and I think this is great. I'm glad I can be one of the first ones, and I hope there's more people that kind of can learn from this, and because I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be something hopefully that can change in the future, and maybe you'll see more athletes, NFL athletes, doing the same thing.
Yeah, one of the things that my assumption is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, there's some guys, I mean, they're just genetically gifted people. I mean, obviously in the NFL, you get people that, I mean, they just, they're just incredible physical specimens. And some of them just eat garbage. I mean, it's like is that still relatively prevalent in the NFL, where you get these young guys that are just ripped and insane athletes, but they're eating just fast food, junk food fairly frequently?
Absolutely. I think that was something that surprised me. Just being around some of the guys, that yes, there are some genetic freaks that can just eat whatever they want, whether that's Cheetos or cereal for lunch before you go out and have a 2.5 hour practice. They're eating, Fruit Loops or whatever before they go out and play. And, that's always been surprising to me. But one thing that I noticed is that you can get by with that for a period of time, right? Maybe on your genetics for a period of time. But what I have seen is that it catches up. eventually that bad nutrition will eventually catch up to you at some point, and it will hurt you in in whether it's injury or just getting out of shape, or kind of your body breaking down, getting older, right? Not as fit and strong and things like that. And so I've also noticed that as well.
Yeah, obviously, you're not dealing with contact right now, without the contact scrimmaging and stuff like that. But some training, can beat you up. The high intensity stuff, the sprinting, the turning, the cutting, the pivoting, the heavy lifting, the explosive work, the jumping, and I'm sure all the stuff you're doing. Um, in the past, I found that my recovery from when I was doing that stuff, it took me a little bit longer. Now, when I'm on a carnivore diet, I found that, I mean, pretty much every day I'm ready to go. I mean, are you experiencing any of that with improved recovery? I know you mentioned sleep.
Yeah, no, the recovery's been amazing, and you almost don't notice it because you don't notice that you're not sore, right? It's not your body's not screaming at you, and different things like that. Yeah, so the recovery has been great. But again, the inflammation, things like my knee and things like that would swell up or get sore after a heavy squat day are virtually gone. I mean, I don't have any of that inflammation or soreness at all. So yeah, I would say that I've had huge benefits of recovery.
Yeah, my friend, this guy's named Zach Bitter. You may be familiar with him. He's a 100-mile world record holder in three, trail, treadmill, and track. And he would say, and he's gone to not a fully carnivorous diet, although what he does during recovery is he goes carnivore after he runs these 100-mile races. And he said previously, it would take him 3 days to really even be able to walk comfortably because his legs would swell so much after these events. But he said since he's gone on a carnivorous approach, particularly during recovery, next day he's fine. He's able to squat and do those things. So that's something that I think is pretty darn fascinating. Have you had any sort of, I mean, again, I guess without being with the team and the team's dietitian, has anybody sort of said, no, don't do this. You can't do this. This is going to harm you or harm your performance yet?
Probably my mom. she she seems to be worried about it, and she's somebody that I talk to frequently about trying to do a carnivore diet. I've had a few people question, you sure you know what you're doing, and different things like that. And but I think everybody knows that I'm a dedicated person, and I'm smart enough, and I do my own research to understand. So as far as like my close circle of people, I haven't really had any pushback from doing it. I'm sure there'll be people on social media that will have some pushback, and but I'm actually looking forward to it because I think the great test will be during this next season. You go out there and you have a great season, and it'll be hard to argue against the diet.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how it goes for you and if some other folks adopt it, because I suspect it'll be fine. I think you'll do well. I think you'll be successful. And I think any people that do it for the most part. Do you think the season's going to take place? I mean, what is your gut feeling? Do you think there's going to be a shortened season, delayed season, or do you think it's going to go take place in, late summer like it always does?
Yeah, so as far as we've been, updated, we are kind of moving forward as if we are going to start things like normal. But again, we don't have a date yet set, and so that's still up in the air, and that kind of makes me wonder if everything's going to be on time. And it could be tough. It could be challenging for some people, not knowing if there's going to be a season or not, as far as training and different things like that. But I think for me, you have to mentally plan and prepare as if everything was just going to go and start on time. And then you just have to make adjustments after that. A lot of this is out of your control, and so not much you can do about it other than stay in shape. I'm actually looking forward to having so much time to just focus on training and my nutrition and getting in shape and feeling the best. And I'm feeling the best I've ever felt in my life. And so these are all positives for me. If it does start later, that just means I have more time to train and get stronger and prepare for the season. So
Where does Kansas City do its off season typically? Do you guys have an off season location where you normally would train and do practice?
Yeah, it's an hour, a little over an hour north of Kansas City in a place called St. Joseph. It's Missouri Western State University, this little Division II college where we stay in the dorms and we eat at their cafeteria and use their facilities and things like that. And it's a great little setup for us. We can kind of get away. But I believe that that's kind of they've said that no teams will travel for their training camps and that all the training camps will be done at the facilities. And so that'll be new. We've never been just at our own facility for training camp. And there's a lot of unknowns, where are we going to stay, and how will they kind of control and protect all this stuff? So a lot of unknowns that we'll have to find out.
How much does that need? How much did that need actually bother you? Like during the season or the last couple of years since you've had the injury versus now. Is there a noticeable difference?
There's a big difference, actually. You know, I was I was probably limited that year I came back, and that's from swelling, from soreness, from loss of muscle. So the tibia plateau fracture, um, they made me stay non-weight bearing for 6 weeks. I couldn't put any weight on my leg, and that's very difficult to maintain any kind of muscle mass when you can't load up your leg, right? And so I did a lot of pistol squats and single leg things on my right leg to help, maybe some crossover strength and different things, but definitely suffered from some loss of strength on that left side that year that I came back. Well, then I had the whole off season, but I still dealt with, probably scar tissue buildup, some tight muscles, because there was some muscles that were cut during the surgery, some calf muscles and things like that that needed to kind of come back and recover. Well, last year I actually felt really good, but I did notice some imbalances, right? So spending so much time being unbalanced, right, with that right leg being dominant and things like that, I suffered, kind of the chain effect of, well, now my hip's hurting, and now my, I'm out of balance, and now my groin, and it's pulling on my ab and all these different things because I'm trying to rebalance my body. And so, yeah, I dealt with a lot of that last year, and still had some knee issues, and even to starting this off season after the Super Bowl, doing some range of motion things still bothered it. But I would say I'm feeling better than ever. There's maybe some tightness, if anything, but nothing inflamed, no soreness. It just kind of takes a minute to get warmed up, but the strength's starting to come back. I'm doing a lot of things to try and balance myself back out to where I'm, very bilateral, strong. And so, yeah. And I think this has been a big part of it. We talked about the recovery and all that stuff. That's been a big part of, me getting back.
Yeah, one of the problems I had when I was competing as an athlete, is trying to keep the goal, and I mean, the goal is to perform as a football player, but you get in the weight room and you're like, yeah, I really want to clean this amount of weight, or I want, you kind of get sidetracked a little bit, and that you kind of get a little obsessive. And I noticed that was something that I would fall prey to a lot of times, and you get more interested in chasing goals in the gym than actually your end goal, which is your performance. But have you noticed any benchmark sort of gym things that you do, or speed things you do that have started to improve since doing this?
Yeah. You say benchmark. I haven't really tested anything to give you hey, I'm faster, jump higher, things like that. But definitely the weights have definitely come along. And I think a lot has to do with that recovery, right? So I can train hard and then I can train hard again. Um, I can't give you any numbers specifically because I haven't written anything down, but I would say that range of motion, strength through the range of motion, things like that, I've definitely noticed improvement. But I can't give you a benchmark like, hey, I increased 50 pounds on this or that per se.
What is so what's a typical day or week of eating look like for you currently?
Yeah, so this week I'm fasting more, and so I train in the mornings, and I don't eat till the early afternoon. So it's probably 2 meals a day. So I'll eat in the early afternoon, And then, that's like 2 o'clock or something like that. And I'll have some steaks usually. And then a meal in the evening around, dinner time, whether it's 6:30, 7. And then that's kind of been for this week. And then, on another week, let's say I'm, doing a little bit more, then I won't do as much fasting. So I'll have breakfast with eggs and breakfast meat, sausage or bacon or leftover steak or whatever. And then lunch and dinner, right? 3 meals. So I've kind of just been playing with the fasting, as well as choosing the type of meats, leaner meats, during kind of a lean up week. And, so maybe I go, this week I'll lean up, next week I'll introduce some more fats and things like that. And then, on a day off, like a Wednesday, right, on a 4-day training week or whatever, then I'll do a fast on a Wednesday to kind of break up that heavier, fattier, high calorie week. And so I've been just kind of going week to week and kind of, because you're always wanting to put on muscle mass, right, and to put on weight, and you also want to stay lean, right, and which is another benefit of the carnivore diet. Typically in an off season, I would do these heavy, high carbohydrate type cycles where you put on some muscle mass, but you also put on a lot of fat and you put on a lot of weight. And I remember thinking, I'm just going to get as big as I can and then try and get as lean as I can right before camp, and that really hasn't worked very well these last couple of years. I've kind of done it, and it hasn't really worked. Where I do the carbohydrate bulk up, and the traditional cut, right, where you're cutting the calories. Well, going into camp, you're just not feeling all that, energetic and strong. What's great about this is I feel lean and strong all the time. Whether I'm adding the higher calories or cutting, I still feel lean and I still feel strong. I'm not having those where you're putting on the weight and the extra fat along with it. So
Do you sort of, I know you talked about lean weeks and fattier weeks, and I think there does seem to be some benefit to the kind of periodizing those things in my experience. But how are you sort of tailoring your diet to the workout intensity to some degree, or how do you mentioned fasted trainings? Are all your workouts fasted, or do some of them, do you put food in for some particular workouts?
you know what? I don't try to eat anything before a workout. So like this morning, and most mornings I will get up 5:30 and come down into the basement and get after it. And then so, depending on, what my calorie needs for the week, I either eat breakfast right after, right, or I'm fasting till the afternoon. And a lot of times, which has been great, is I can train multiple times a day being here at home. And so sometimes I'll work out in the morning and I'll work out at night. And I don't eat anything before my workouts at night, other than, say I eat my meal at 6 or 6:30. You know, I don't train till the kids are down, which is probably 8:30 or 9 at night. And I don't eat anything right before. I don't need it, any of the energy from the food that I eat. I don't feel like that's a requirement. I have to have like a pre-workout meal.
Do you deal with fluid? How do you deal with fluid and electrolyte needs? Are you something you do? Do you do some electrolytes?
Just salt, Himalayan pink salt that I salt a lot of my foods with, and lots of water. Other than that, I don't necessarily have a supplement that I take for hydration.
When it comes to your meals, I mean, I mean, I know as athletes, particularly if you're eating, 6, 7, 8 times a day, obviously, the family can't do that. But are you try to timing your meals so the family's part of it, or do you eat by yourself a bit?
Yeah, so it's here and there. Like if we're out, summertime, we go out swimming on the way home. The kids grab some food to eat, and I necessarily can't find something that I want to eat there, right? It's Chick-fil-A or whatever it is, and I'm not going to eat that for dinner, and so I'll have to wait, and then sometimes I'll even wait till the kids go back down, so I'm not trying to fix dinner while we're still putting them to bed. But yeah, on a normal day, if we're all sitting down for dinner, like last night, I cooked up 3 steaks and I ate my steaks, and they had their meal. and we ate together, and it was, you know, it's just fine. So, and that's the other thing, is I can be really flexible with the carnivore diet. You know, if we happen to be going in and out, I'm super happy because I'm gonna grab a bunch of Flying Dutchmen. But if I don't eat, it's not a big problem. I'm not hangry. I'm not starving. You know, I find that my body can be very flexible when it can eat, and which is, you know, number one as an athlete. You know, with our schedules and things like that, you know, things have to be flexible, right? Oh shoot, I didn't pack my snacks for my fifth meal of the day. You know, I'm going to be angry and hungry and things like that. Well, that doesn't work. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, as you know, someone in the NFL, do you foresee it being challenging to eat this way while traveling, while doing the training, while doing the normal NFL schedule, or do you think you could do it very easily?
So the way it works for us is we have a cafeteria, and they make some type of beef every day, some type of steaks every day, some type of chicken every day, and then some type of seafood every day. And we've got a full kitchen staff, and so we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner there on the days we're there that long, and then the days off, obviously. And then traveling, we stay in a hotel, and they provide meals for us. And again, they have steaks, they have chicken, and they have some type of seafood there for us. And it's very consistent, so I know exactly what food's going to be out there, because they understand people like to have a, you know, a regiment of a diet, and which works really well. So I'm actually looking forward to it, because somebody else will be cooking my meals other than myself. So that'll be nice. I don't see a problem at all traveling.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to do, particularly. You mentioned In and Out and the Flying Dutchman. Somebody's asking what they are, and it's basically, you know, two burger patties with a cheese in the middle. But how do you do with dairy? I mean, obviously you're having some if you're doing In and Out Flying Dutchmans. Do you find the dairy overall you're fine with, or some people don't tolerate dairy as well? But I guess what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I experimented with this early on, and that's what's great too, is you on the carnivore diet, you can find out what bothers you, right? Very easily, because you can eliminate, okay, I added this today and this gave me problems. And I remember trying whole milk, and that did not go over well. And I remember my wife saying, "What did you eat?" So I knew right away, milk is not good. I have done cheese, obviously, and haven't had the same effects as just your traditional whole milk. But I do try to limit my dairy intake. I don't notice any severe side effects from eating dairy. I can eat cheese and do just fine. But you know, if it's up to me, and especially on a lean week, I'm not eating any dairy. Maybe if it's a higher calorie week, you know, I'll throw in some dairy, some extra cheese on the eggs, or on, you know, some burgers and things like that. So dairy is kind of something that I just kind of play with, but I haven't noticed any side effects other than the milk from yeah.
Do you talk about your fasting, because you mentioned fasting? Are you doing, like, you know, 48, 72-hour fast, or this all sort of intermittent fasting within a 24-hour period?
It's mostly been intermittent fasting. I've been wanting to do some prolonged fasts, some longer fasts, and just I'm still trying to figure out how it fits in with my schedule as far as training, because the training is still pretty intense, and so that could be a little difficult if it's a prolonged several day fast to still maintain some level of high intensity. You know, you'd have to back off from doing that. And so maybe you have some guidance. I've been wanting to do it. I just haven't found the right way to fit it into my schedule, I guess. Not that I'm against it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that, you know, for an athlete, particularly actively engaged during a season, that it's going to be a significant benefit, you know, maybe in the off season a little bit, but and I've talked with Jason Fung, who's a huge proponent of fasting, about this topic, and he says, yeah, probably for most athletes, you know, doing it is not going to be a additional benefit, but certainly as you pointed out, not having the digestive upset from eating every 2 hours and then trying to train and perform is a huge benefit. I think, I mean, literally, and you may know this thing, you can go and eat a big steak or two, and 15, 20 minutes, you could probably go out and train if you wanted to. I mean, because you just don't have that heaviness or the weighing down. I mean, I think if your digestive system works as it's supposed to. Now, some people that have poor digestion where they can't digest things as well, they've got low stomach acid, things like that, I think they have a different situation. But I think a normally functioning human should be able to eat and then run. I mean, that's would be a survival skill early on, if we think about it. What about your family? Has the family shifted diet in any way? You guys, is more steak making on the menu with your wife and kiddos since you've adopted this?
Yeah. So during the original 30-day carnivore that I did, I convinced my wife to try it with me. And I was just so excited about it. That's probably all that she heard from me. And so she decided to give it a try. And she saw amazing benefits as well. And she was kind of up and down. I don't know if she was as consistent, but when she did eat, probably over a 2.5 week period, she really enjoyed some of the results. And then we actually found out that she was pregnant with our number 4, with our 4th, and so she's still pregnant right now. And so that kind of threw kind of messed her up because sickness and nausea and things like that, and she just kind of went to whatever felt good to eat. And so my brother, actually, I convinced my brother to try it, and he's been doing it on and off for the last probably 2.5 months, and same thing, seeing awesome results. He's more of the kind that, hey, I'm going to do carnivore for 14 days and I'm going to kind of have a cheat day or whatever, but he says, it doesn't take him long to get back feeling good again after, eating some other types of foods. And so that's kind of how he's made it work for him. But I tell people, and maybe you've got some advice too, but when I'm trying to tell people, I'm like, it's just 30 days. I mean, you can do anything for 30 days, right? I mean, I firmly believe that if you set your mind to something, you can do something for just 30 days, right? Just try it out. But it's been hard to kind of convince people.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately what convinces people, is just going to be, your basically your success, and as more people see success, I mean, even when the studies come out, which they will, still people aren't going to be convinced. It's still going to be, you have to try it yourself. And unfortunately, it takes people getting sick a lot of times to want to make that change. And that's why so many people that adopt this are, in their 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s, because they've kind of gotten to the point where life is pretty miserable, quite honestly, how most people end up, expecting that. We see that after 30 or 40, I mean, it's like you expect everything to go downhill when it really doesn't have to. I can tell you, as a 53-year-old guy, I feel great and perform at a pretty darn high level still, which is pretty cool to see. And what I would say, from a career extension standpoint, I mean, I think this is, if you're looking for a dietary intervention to prolong your career, I know a lot of people talk about Tom Brady's diet and, what all the success he's had. But if you look at his diet, what he advertises, he eats more meat, fish, and eggs than the average American does. And then he just doesn't eat a bunch of junk food. And, but the people from the other side say, well, look at how much plant he's eating. And I'm just saying that's just not junk food. I think it's meat plus not junk food is a really, really good strategy. And I think the problem is the standard American diet is a little bit of meat and a lot of junk food. And we get this conflated into it's all about the meat. And we're seeing in this community, and there's tens of thousands of us now that are showing every day that that's not the case. Yeah, my girlfriend, who was vegetarian when we met, is now 90% carnivore, and I think that's the thing. I think a 30-day is a nice introduction, and you're right, anybody can do anything for 30 days. Although some people they struggle with about 2 or 3 days, because if they come up against any little adversity, they want to stop very quickly. I was going to say, do you feel that we're going to see more athletes come out with this? I mean, because there is some pushback to this. I mean, there's obviously a very strong message that eating meat is bad for the planet, it's bad for your health, it's unethical. How do you deal with those sort of concerns?
To answer your first question, I do think that more athletes will do this. I really do. And what leads me to believe that is just the guys that I've trained with and kind of introduced it to and that have liked it already. I think as this becomes, as people become more educated about the carnivore diet and its benefits, I can see more people doing it and trying it. And I'm excited to go through the season and to just be able to tell some of my players, hey, look, this worked for me. Try it, right? But I don't really care about the critics or the other side's opinion on it. What I'm focused on is, hey, is this good for my body, and is this good for my profession? Is it helping me, and is it going to increase my career and my longevity? And that's number one for me. And so, I don't think I'm going to listen to anybody that argues against that, because I've got my own testimony about it, right? I know that this works and it's worked so far. So, I'm not too concerned about what other people will say or push back by any means.
Because obviously every season is different, and as I kind of read your career, you kind of worked your way up into this starting position over a period of about 3 or 4 years, and you've kind of maintained that. When do the decisions come out about starting rosters? Is that way too early in the season to determine that?
It is, yep. So traditionally, you'll go through training camp where they'll increase the rosters, 90 plus guys, and then in that 2 to 3 week period, there are cuts that are made, and the roster has to get down to 53. So almost half of that initial group gets cut. And then after that, yeah, it's not till like the week of the game that you find out where exactly you fit on that roster. So that's still a little ways out.
Yeah, well, we're all pulling for you for sure. So hopefully it'll turn out well for you, and barring any unforeseen circumstances. Dan, it's been an hour, and I don't want to monopolize too much of your time. I really, really just thank you for coming on, and and thank you for doing what you're doing, is getting out there and saying, hey, look, this works for me, and whatever people think about it, at the end of the day, the results are the results. But where would people go if they wanted to find out more about you? I know you've got a little bit of social media stuff. How do people sort of follow what's going on with you?
Yeah, come check me out. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, and I'll be posting stuff kind of along my journey of carnivore. It's Danny Sorensen 49. Yeah, and I'll be posting workouts and the things that I'm eating, and hopefully showing you all the benefits of doing this diet. I want to thank you for having me on. And honestly, all the content that you put out, I can't even imagine how much work that goes into doing all this, because you're constantly putting out videos, putting out content. It's information, and for somebody like me that's looking for information to get started on something like this, it was everything that I needed to get going. And there's so much information out there. If anybody's thinking about doing this, especially if you're an athlete, there is so much information to guide you through starting this journey, the carnivore journey. I haven't felt at all confused or didn't know what to do, because there's so much content out there, and you're honestly one of the people that's pushing a lot of that out there.
Well, thanks for that, Dan. And I do get to talk to some high level athletes that we talk about diet and stuff like that, from Olympic athletes to other professional athletes that are, I know, in the background, and I know it's gonna come out, probably over the next year or two as we see people have success, and I think that's going to be and the interesting thing is, and it's a little bit sad, but a lot of people, they get their nutrition advice from athletes or celebrities, and I know that's a sort of a burden you don't ask for, but people look up to folks like you, and you influence a lot of people, and unfortunately there's some that are like, drink Coca-Cola and stuff like that, which is really, it's kind of frustrating when you see that. So thank you for promoting at least a real food, which is, I wonder, you should be getting somebody should be sending you some free steaks for sure, if they're not already. And that's a shame if they're not. And I'm sure I could find some people if you want some. let me know. So I know a lot of guys.
Awesome. You know, I
All right.
bought a cinder grill off your
Oh yeah.
you have a promo code, and so I actually went and bought a cinder and used it actually quite frequently with
Yeah,
sous
it
vide.
works. It does really nice for sous vide. You know, it really does. It's the sear part. You got to, you know, I mean, it only gets to 400 degrees, so I don't think it sears as well. But I mean, for sous vide, it's a really nice way to do it. And then I also use that Big Auto Wild Grill, which is that thing's nice if you feel like it. It's portable too, so you could probably take it with you. You know, while you're getting your steaks cooked for you, so it's not a big issue. But anyway, thank you very much, Dan. I wish you the best. I hope the season goes off, and I hope you have a great season. And you know, anytime you want to stop by, let us know. And anything I can do to be of assistance, I'm certainly here for that. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you. All
Okay,
right.
guys, I'm going to shut this one down. You guys have a great morning. Take care.